My name is Brandon Owen Mount. I'm 32 years old. I was born in the east side of Atlanta. When I was growing up, I had a loving family. Outside of my stepfather, I didn't know that he was my stepfather until, life progressed a little bit. But when I was younger, I grew up playing baseball. Baseball was my life. From the age of 3 until I was 18, that was pretty much what I did. I grew up kind of rough in the sense of my stepfather made good money. My mother had her own business. It was an in-home daycare, but they always struggled because there was alcohol involved with my stepfather, and my mother would struggle to take care of us because he didn't help necessarily. Like, he provided the roof over our head and would put groceries in the house, but majority of the time he was either working or he was drinking a lot, and he would always yell. You know what I mean? That's the way he would try to get our attention, was yell at us. And I remember certain times growing up where, he would treat me different than he would my younger sister or my stepbrother. And I always wondered why. I always wondered what was different about me. Why do you cuss at me? Why do you yell at me? Why are you throwing stuff at me? What have I done so wrong to you to make you not, love me, is how I felt. But I always loved this man. For some reason, I couldn't hate him. And fast forward to like 8 or 9 years old, his son, which is my stepbrother, his name's Levi, he came up to me one day and was like, "You're not a part of this family." And I was appalled, like I was stuck. I didn't understand what he was saying because, this is my sister, this is my mom, this man is my dad. Like, what do you mean I'm not a part of this family? So in that moment, I believe something inside of me broke. And what I believe broke was my security, my sense of self-esteem, my will to just keep going. I believe that's when it all broke, was in that moment. Because growing up, all I ever wanted was to be loved and to have a family and to love that family to no end. And with him, it was, he loved me for a second, or I thought he loved me, but it was anger. It was alcohol. I can't think of any other words to use outside of, it was horrendous, man. I found out when I was 10, like the process started to begin of me finding out that he wasn't my father. So when my stepbrother told me that, a year later, I go into, I want to say it was the first year in middle school. It may not have been middle school. It may have been 5th grade going into middle school, but I was about to turn 11 and I was at my friend's house. I'll never forget where we were and, the situation in itself. We were in their trailer where they lived, and it was roach infested. I noticed that he was smoking cigarettes and his mom didn't care. And I just, like I said before, I just wanted to be loved, and they loved me. And that's when I smoked my first cigarette. And then I noticed that she let him smoke weed, and I was like, what does that do for you? So I tried weed. And after that, it all went downhill from there. After that, if I had to, put a time limit on it, I would say a month, 2 months. I was introduced to pills, Xanaxes, more so than anything else. I didn't know what they were. They were these little blue pills that looked like footballs, and I was like, hey, that's pretty cool. That pill looks like a football. But I see people taking them, and I'm like, what's that doing for you? And they describe it, and well, let me see if that helps me with what's going on in here. And so I took one, And man, that was the beginning of a monster. And not her little boy anymore. She finally comes to me and says, baby, what's wrong? I want to help you. And I had always known that I had a gift with speaking. Like, you know, I would speak to people and they would listen to me, but they wouldn't listen to me the way that I wanted people to listen to me. They only listened when it was foul language, or when it was, let's degrade this, or you know, talk about a woman and her features, and you know, it was all fun and games because people were loving me. I thought it was okay. I didn't know any different. In all that, you know, my mother did what any mother would do, and she loved me through it. She loved me the best way that she knew how, because my grandmother was a walk-in pharmacy. When my mother was 12, my grandmother would make her go into the pharmacy and get her prescriptions for her. Like, they would be in my mother's name, but my grandmother would, you know, use them or sell them, or my uncle, my mom's brother, would take them. And, you know, that's pretty much how my grandmother would get her drugs until my mama got old enough to say, hey, look, I'm not doing this, and left. But my grandmother played a big part in my life too, and I'll get into that in a little bit. So after the acid, after the Xanaxes, you know, I never saw my baseball career go down. You know what I mean? It was always on the up and up. Like, I was practicing, I was still doing all this while, you know, getting completely inebriated and not remembering what I did from day to day, not remembering who I was from minute to minute. But I always knew how to play baseball. You couldn't take it from me. You know, as I said before, it was my life. So at the age of 14, you know, it got worse and worse and worse, and progressed more and more and more. And my grandma started getting sick. And, you know, even though my grandmother was, you know, this lady who, she had the pills, she did this, she did that. I didn't know this when I was a kid, because she never gave me any. She always loved me. You know, she was like 5'2" and weighed 95 pounds, and I was, you know, 6 foot, 180 pounds, and she would hold me like a baby. She held me like a baby from the time I was a baby until she passed away when I was 16. So in between 14 and 16, I would go and spend time with her, and I would see the effects that the drugs had on her. Not just the prescription drugs, but the goodies. She would eat them like, you know, they were going out of style, and then she'd drink Coca-Cola on top of them, which wasn't good for her kidneys and her liver. Well, she wound up having fluid build up on her stomach, and it was summer when I was 16. It was May 31st, I'll never forget it. I got a call. I was practicing baseball. I was in high school at the time. And by this time, you know, I was still just the Xanaxes, the weed, and I had taken ecstasy by this time too for the first time. And I got a call, and my mom said, baby, you need to come to such and such hospital in Snellville. You know, she's not doing good. Well, from where my high school was to where my grandmother was a 15-minute drive. I got there in 7, 8 at tops. Needless to say, I wanted to see my grandma. I didn't want her to go, because outside of my mama, she was all I had. And when I got there, I remember my mom coming to meet me at the front, and I was actually smoking a blunt on my way there, because that's the only way I knew to cope. And so I got there, and I'm putting the blunt out, and I'm going in, and I know I'm smelling like, you know, just foul, and I don't want to be disrespectful, but I don't care, because that's my grandmother. So I get in there, and I walk into the room, and there's this body that there's no life in it. It just looked like a sheet of flesh laid over bones. But when she heard my voice, she like instantly popped up out of the bed, and everybody turned and looked and was like, wow. So I went in and I hugged her, and she embraced me. And she said, baby, I love you. And I said, Granny, I love you too. You know, it's okay. And when I told her that, she breathed her last breath, and she died in my arms. And a part of me died that day. And after that, I remember laying her down. I remember looking at her, and I remember thinking, what did she do so wrong? Why did you take her from me? What am I supposed to do? So I left, and my uncle came with me. And he was an addict too, so probably wasn't best that we both ride together. You know, he just lost his mom. He was 41 years old and still lived with his mother. Like, she wouldn't even let him have a girlfriend. And we were talking, and he said, nephew, have you ever thought about this? You know, it helps with anxiety and this. Little did he know, I was already 5 years ahead of him. You know, it had already been introduced to me. So with him telling me that, it's like, hey, it's okay. You know, I thought it was okay. But little did I know, or little did I look into it, that this man's 41 years old. He still lived with his mother. Why does he still live with his mother? Addiction was the reason. So she passes away. A part of me passes away. And I see a part of my mom die too. And I remember at her funeral, I remember carrying her casket. I remember seeing my mama just lose it. And I remember seeing everybody else just weeping and crying. I cried too, but I felt this, I don't know, I felt something like big inside of me. Like, it was strong, but it wasn't like anything I had felt before. It wasn't strong like the power of the drugs. It was something different, and I didn't understand it, so I didn't acknowledge it until later on in life. And so she died, we buried her, and during this time I'm, you know, transitioning from middle school, high school to, you know, now I'm about to be a sophomore. Well, 8th grade summer, before I go to be, you know, in high school, I met my first son. I met my son's mother, and I fell in love with her. She was everything that I was looking for in somebody, because she loved me where I was at. And we started talking. We got close with each other, and then we had sex. And I didn't use protection. She got pregnant. So now I'm 17 years old. I'm still in school, and I got a baby on the way. What am I gonna do? I'm still a kid myself. I don't even know how to be a father. My father never taught me anything. The only thing he taught me was I was supposed to be yelled at, and, you know, alcohol was gonna come before me, but not anybody else. It was just gonna come before me. And I promised myself that I would never do my son like that. That's where I went wrong. Because I spoke that I spoke the fact that I would never do that into existence. I didn't understand the power behind my words. As her pregnancy goes on, you know, we go to the hospital visits. I'm with her every step of the way, every step of the way. Well, August 19th, 2004, my son is born at 9:20 in the morning. And I'm watching this life be brought into the world. And for the first time in my life, pure joy set inside my heart. And I never knew that I never knew that I could have that. And I looked at him, and again, I promised myself that I would never be the man that I lived under the roof with. And in that time, I hate to go backwards, but I found out when I was 16 for sure that the man who raised me wasn't my father. And this was after my grandmother passed away, so I got that on me. Then this happens. I don't leave the bed for 3 days. My mom embraces me, we cry together. And I really start to understand why this man doesn't love me. And then it made me question, why would you adopt me? Why would you adopt me and give me your last name if you don't want to love me and you don't want to do what a father's supposed to do? So all that's going through my head as I'm looking at my child, and I promised him, he didn't know what I was saying. He was 2 days old. I promised him, I said, son, I will never leave you. I will never leave you. I'll always be here. I lied to him. I didn't know how strong the addiction was. After he was born, I was in a part of my life where I was selling drugs. I was trying to get by. I was getting high every day. And I didn't know how to escape it. It wasn't fun. I mean, it was fun then, but it wasn't fun. And so he's about 6 months, and I look at his mom and I say, I'm gonna quit going to school during the day, and I'm gonna pursue night school so that you can continue to be in school. I'll work, and we'll make this work. I know we're young, but we're gonna make this work. Well, I had proposed to her, and everything was good. By this time, I had moved to Dawsonville and started a job doing propane work. I was 18 at the time, and I had proposed to her. And one night, she wasn't answering the phone. I didn't understand it, so I left to go check on her. And when I got there, something just didn't feel right. There was something inside of me that was telling me, your life is about to change. I didn't listen to it. Nah, it's whatever, I'm going crazy. It's probably the drugs or, just me being insecure, because I have those insecurities. And I go to walk into the house, and lo and behold, she's in the bed with another man, and my son is right there with him. So I lose it. Like, I grab my son, I hold him, and I tell him again, son, I'm not going anywhere. I love you. It's gonna be okay. Another part of me died that day. Because again, as I said, when I was younger, that's all I wanted was a family. That's all I wanted was a family to love, to have on my own. Because I never had a full, strong, structured family. And when that happened, as I said, I was almost just a walking person with no soul inside of me, nothing. I got introduced to cocaine around this time, and that's where the roller coaster ride began. It was bad with the Xanaxes, but then when the cocaine came into the picture, I became the most, I couldn't go around anybody without them worrying about what's he gonna take from me. Like I'm not glorifying it, but I have to say this for you to understand the severity of it. I could steal from you and you'd be watching me. It's how good I got, because it fed my addiction. So in that, I was stealing from my family. I was forging checks from my stepfather. I had got good at signing his signature, and he caught me. Like I didn't know that he was going to be able to catch me. And we sat down at the table one day, and he put this sheet of paper in my face with printed out pictures of the checks, and he said, "What's this?" The only thing I could tell him was, "Where were you when I needed you? I asked you for help. I did what I had to do. If you got to do what you got to do, I'll suffer the consequences." Well, thank God he didn't press charges on me. He just didn't. He completely cut me off then. And me and him got into a heated argument. And after that, I did graduate. I graduated, I got my diploma. And all the while, you know, in school, I was high every day. I was high all the time. I didn't know how to live outside of being high. And if I wasn't high, I wasn't living. Fast forward to the age 20, I met my ex-wife, and she was every drug addict's dream. She could get all the drugs. She had power, and what I mean by that is nobody messed with her or her family. Their name held a lot of weight, and that intrigued me because I've never been around anybody who has, you know, people don't mess with. So I got to know her. We would hang out with each other. Every day she would bring me Xanaxes and weed. And then it got to the point where she would bring me cocaine sometimes. And, you know, we would just hang out with each other. Never nothing physical. We never hugged each other or anything like that. It was just hung out and got high together. And in that, I fell in love with her. But I fell in love with what she could do for me in regards to addiction. So we got together, we got married, and she got pregnant. Well, in her getting pregnant, I found out that she had been messing around with other people while, you know, we just had messed around that one time. Again, it crushed me. What do I do now? It just keeps happening. What's going on? What am I doing wrong? Well, she gets pregnant, and she's, you know, I tell her, you know, hey, look, I want to make sure this is right for me. You know, like, I want to make sure this is mine. She gets mad, she storms out, I don't hear from her. And so that pushes me down even more. I start consuming more and more Xanaxes. And by this time, I'm so bad on the Xanaxes that if I don't have any on the bedside table, when I wake up, I'm not moving. In all that, you know, like I said, I was stealing from people. I was horrible, man. I hated myself. I hated what I was doing to people. I hated what my life had become. So me and my wife, you know, we were together. You know, she got pregnant, like I said, and I didn't believe the child was mine. So going into it, you know, she was angry at me. Long story short, she has the baby, gives the baby another man's name, completely destroys me. Completely destroys me. So he's 7, 8, 9 months old, and we reconnect. Well, I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna forgive her. Even if he's not mine, I'm gonna be there for him. Well, I raised this boy, and we split up. Like, we got married in 2008. By 2010, we got married December 31st, 2008. By October 2010, we were divorced. Drugs played a big part in that because there was no trust, there was no communication. It was only we get high, we have sex with each other, and that's it. 2009, before we get divorced, I tried to commit suicide. We were living in Oakwood, Georgia, and I remember this house that we lived in. There was this deep, dark, just feeling that I had in this house, and I had been shunned by her family because I was stealing from her brother. He was a drug dealer, so he had everything I wanted. And like I told you before, nobody would know. And he caught me one day. He put a camera in the bathroom because he noticed that things were coming up missing. So he caught me. But he tried to help me get a job, and he tried to, not pursue hurting me or whatever the case would have been. So I remember going to that job interview. This is 2009, and I go to the job interview, and the whole way to the job interview, I am uneasy, but I'm happy because hey, I'm about to get a job. I have money. I can buy my own drugs. This I don't have to take from people. Well, I go to the job, the interview goes good. I didn't take a drug test at that time. I was supposed to go back the next day and take the drug test and, start working. Well, on my way back home, something inside of me was like, I heard these voices. Nobody wants you. You're not good enough. Why don't you just go ahead and take your life? You're gonna have the opportunity. Today's the day. Nobody's gonna miss you. They're better off without you. And it was louder than anything I had ever heard before. It was like, where is this coming from? Why am I hearing these things? So driving down the road, and I remember, there's a Dollar General down the street from the house. So for some reason, I pulled into the Dollar General. I walked in. I stole 2 bottles of Tylenol PM and went back to my house. Put the pills in a Ziploc bag. Put them away, hid them so that nobody could find them. And it just so happens that day, her brother's girlfriend, she was a Romanian immigrant, so she didn't fix her visa, so they had to go pick her up from jail. Something happened where she got locked up, so my wife had to leave, and her son and our son was at the house. It was just me and him, and here's where the addiction takes a turn for the worst. It consumed me. I was hearing things. They leave. He falls asleep. He's 2 years old, and I go into the kitchen and I pour me a big glass of Kool-Aid. And I look at I look at the Kool-Aid. I go and grab the bag of pills, and I go into the bathroom. And I remember looking in the mirror, like I couldn't look in the mirror for a long time. And I remember that one time looking in the mirror, and I looked at myself in the eyes and said, I hate you. I hate who you are. I hate what you're doing. Let's just go ahead and end it. They'll be better without you. So I took one handful of the pills, and then I took another handful of the pills, finished the Kool-Aid, and I went and laid down in the bed with my son, and I held him. And I just remember crying to him. I just remember telling him, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I can't do this for you. I can't be who you need me to be. Please forgive me. Just know that I love you. I want what's best for you, but it's not me. And then I remember, as I'm holding him, fading in and out, having to run back and forth to the bathroom. And the last time I went to the bathroom, or I was trying to go to the bathroom, I remember walking into the bathroom and everything just went black. Everything went black. I woke up in the hospital, puking up charcoal. There was no pieces of the pills left. Everything had dissolved inside of me. I died on my bathroom floor that day. And before I came to, you know, they always say when you die, you see that bright light. And I was like, bright light, yeah, okay, whatever. No, it's true, it's true. I saw a bright light and I saw this much of a hand. I didn't recognize the hand. I'd never seen it before. But I had heard the voice that spoke after the hand. I just didn't recognize the voice. It was a deep, soothing, peaceful voice that said, "Come with me, son.